What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, and I'm here with
Gersh 1.
Not 2.
Nope, just 1.
Because I think 2 would be too much to fit in the screen.
Oh yeah, even though we could have a little bit.
Yeah.
We got some space here, some space over there.
But we only have 2 of these types of chairs.
We do that make noise.
And welcome back to another For the Greater.
This is a video series where we answer the questions left by you, the viewer. If you have a question for us, just comment down below. Put a question in front of your question because we get those questions first.
And that is exactly what Don Krill has done. Krill. His question is, pardon the burp. What are your opinion on pre-painted ranges of 40K miniatures? Would it help people to get into gaming faster, or would it ruin the hobby? Rackman from France did a really nice try with the AT-43 tabletop game.
I don't know what that is, and I think it would be horrible. I think it does kill the hobby, and you should never do it, GW. And then tomorrow we're gonna get pre-painted miniatures.
So there are definite bonuses and negatives to this. Like you were saying, the huge negative is like you're taking away a huge aspect of the hobby, and that is the painting, the modeling, the customization, the adding your own flair to it.
Yep.
But it will, like you were saying, speed up the hobby tremendously. You just go to your local, I don't know, gaming store, and you're already going to have pre-painted Ultramarines, pre-painted Tau. The thing is, though, since I feel like they're going to be pre-built, pre-painted, like they're not going to look as good, so the quality won't be there.
Yep.
Also, what about weapon options? Will they be magnetized? Is it going to be like Legos where you can build them how you need to build them?
Yeah.
But overall, the quality will definitely go down because they're going to definitely need to produce a lot of it.
Yeah, and I don't think the game is actually that great for that to happen, because like when you look at pre-painted miniatures, you think of X-Wing, HeroClix, and I feel like those, they don't pay attention to the miniatures as much as they do to the actual gaming mechanics. That's not to say that 40K isn't fun, because it is, but spending like 2 hours on the tabletop is very, very, like, it's a struggle. And it's not because you don't have painted minis, it's because the game itself is a little so I think GW should continue to push the hobby and have the game be just a subcategory of the entire hobby as a whole. But yeah, I think the benefit would be that it would bring in new players. Yeah. Especially players that aren't really, they get frustrated when like they have a thing in their mind and then they try to execute it and it doesn't come out that way. But then the problem with that is like you're also taking the imagination or that creative aspect from that individual. So now instead of them being like, yep, I failed, now it's like the option's not even there. Yeah, so it's tricky.
Yeah, and I don't think GW would do that because that would heavily caught on brush sales, paint sales, just the hobby tools that they like to spike up the prices on.
Yeah, I don't think they've ever done any pre-painted stuff, have they? Like no, even in another...
If anything, you'll see pre-painted minis when you walk into like a store, and that's because the manager painted them and he's like showcasing them to you guys.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Like, I wonder if you have like your own Warhammer store and you're a horrible painter, will they just ship you out like minis that somebody else painted? So
what has happened from the Warhammer stores that we've gone to is that they usually ask other people to put stuff in the display case, because like we used to go to one nearby, and obviously the manager didn't, or the owner didn't actually play Lord of the Rings, but he carried small Lord of the Rings stuff. So when GW started producing more, there was a guy that would paint his minis there, and he asked that guy to put the minis in the glass cabinet, and he did, because the guy, I don't think he really even played it. He was just like a painter. So yeah, that's what they did.
And that is nice to have like your stuff showcased.
Yeah.
And it kind of gives you a little bit more motivation to be like, oh, I should add extra detail because people are going to, actually look at this.
Yeah, because another big part about the store that we don't really have here in the U.S., but I feel like you probably do in the U.K. because the U.K. is just a smaller place, is that it's more of a hobby / hangout place. So like people go in there, what are you going to do? Just stand around and like watch people play if you can't get a table, because they usually only have like 2 or 3 tables anyways. No, you sit down, you paint. And there's usually more people painting than there are
people playing.
Yeah. So yeah, GW needs to weigh that option too. Good question though.
Yeah, there's a lot of factors that go into it. Like, is it worth it to pre-produce, and like, what's the quality of the paints? Will they be chipping? What models, what lines should we do it for? Because obviously not everybody's going to want a
Blood Angel
army. So
Yeah.
a lot of things to keep in mind about that.
Yeah, because it does take away too. Like, let's say you wanted to do a cool like wolf themed Space Marine chapter that wasn't Space Wolves. You can't do that anymore if it was pre-painted.
Pre-painted, right? Or so then you'll just be painting over the pre-painted stuff, and at that point, why?
Yeah. Next one.
Ross Asbury, could you please explain the pros and cons to going unbound? Thank you.
I don't think we've ever gone Unbound, to be honest.
Yeah, I used to a long time ago, and I don't think it's worth it. So basically, the pro of going unbound is to bring whatever you want. It could be one Tau unit. You could bring some Gene Stealers. You can bring Gilliman, all in the same list, without having to worry about like synergies, command points, detachments. You just bring whatever. And
the cool thing about that is, like, let's say you want to do a really thematic, out of the box type of game where you have like Kaiju versus what is the other one? The robots,
mechs. Jaegers, mechs.
Yeah, so then you could bring the Onager Dooncrawler standing side by side next to the battle suit versus the Tyrannid, what is it called? The Carnifex.
Nah, freaking Squigop behind it.
Yeah, and it seems cool and everything, if you could actually have those miniatures. But,
right.
Yeah, so that's another pro.
Just making crazy stories, crazy narratives, I think it's where this Unbound really shines. Because if you wanted to, you don't have to bring like a full 10-man squad of Space Marines.
Right.
You could just bring 3 Space Marines. And then you'd have to work out like the whole points cost. Because I think this would be more like, you're not playing this to be super competitive. It's to have fun.
Yeah, and I actually experienced the desire, the Slaneshi touch to actually feel, and then to actually try to play a D&D style game with 40K miniatures and 40K rules. Then Blackstone Fortress came out, and then I bought it, but I didn't play it. Like, we never played it. We should play it.
Yeah, there somewhere.
But yeah, I think if you have a friend who's normally like a game master or like really into like just tinkering with like gaming mechanics, you can push them to be like, hey, like there's an Unbound section of 40K that you can use to create your own little scenarios and tell your story, and we're down to play with you in that way. So yeah,
the Slanesh way,
yeah, under the table.
Are you having a stomach ache? Like, why are your face contorting?
Roll me a what is it called? The scatter dice. And then because you said the pros
and the cons.
Yeah, the cons to Unbound is obviously no command points.
Right.
And that's just not how GW or how like most people exist in the hobby. Like, you pick an army, and that's the army you play. Whereas Unbound gives you an ability that's not even like a desire, I guess. If that makes sense.
Yeah. There are synergies by having an army that's just strictly all Grey Knights. Like, you get a +1 to using psychic powers. Or you get certain abilities, certain rules added on if you're 100%, your detachment is a keyword. So there's a lot of things to it. But let's say you're playing a campaign and your Tau are going to have to ally with the Orcs to take on another player. Then, because I believe, 7th edition, there were rules to what allies you can take. Like, let's say the Orcs could ally with the Tau, but if they got anywhere within 6 inches, they couldn't move because they were like, well, are they going to shoot me? Are they going to charge me? Should I make any moves? So because of that, they're kind of standing off.
Yep.
And that heavily hinders both armies. So there's a lot of like weird things that come in mind. and come into play on the tabletop that you're just like, well, I guess lore wise it makes sense, but like if you make a bargain with like the orcs, shouldn't the orcs uphold that? Maybe.
Never. They never do.
Yeah.
Orcs just cheat.
So it's Unbound is good for fun.
Right.
Not so much competitiveness.
Mm-hmm. This question comes from Filthy Lemur. Would the crew benefit from eating Tyrannid foes, and how so? So no, they wouldn't. It's the same reason that they don't eat like too much like animalistic stuff, because then they themselves become animalistic.
Right.
The rumor is, or like the thing is, that like the Crutoxes, what is the other ones? Crute hounds, all of those used to be crew.
Right.
That devolved into that primordial like bestial thing.
Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, too many crew wanted to bulk up, and eventually they got so much muscles, they lost brain power.
Yep, they became the Chads of the world.
Diamonds and gold. Is it sad how many Necrons there are during the war? Oh, is it said how many Necrons there were during the war in heaven, including their ship sizes and counts?
Like 15?
About, yeah, give or take one or two.
Uh-huh.
But no, there was obviously a lot more Necrons back then. But you got to remember that they had very, very small lifespans. And they had basically had space cancer.
Yeah.
So
Space cancer.
because of that, that was kind of dwindling their numbers. But look at all of the Necron warrior bodies that there are, and like how they're just like the whole biotransference and the tomb worlds. They just kept creating bodies and bodies and bodies. So even though it seems like there's a unlimited amount of Necrons nowadays, that's not how it was back then.
Yes, exactly.
Timothy Armstrong, keeping it in line with the Necrons. Is the Silent King the only Necron that has a conscience and not just a mindless drone?
Nope.
In the past it was, because there was no free-thinking Necron. But now they've got personalities, they got flair. They're each their own.
And the reason for that, lore-wise, is because when the Silent King realized, like, oh, I screwed up my race after turning them into Necrons and destroying the Catan, he actually destroyed his, I forget what it's called, like the Grand Command Protocol, giving all of his dynasty leaders, overlords and cryptex and all of them, their sentience back. Which I wonder, does that mean that could they give their regular warriors their sentience back?
Yeah, because right now it's only like the hierarchy that has thought, really.
Right, yeah. Will that change in the future? I hope so. That'd be kind of cool. I wonder if that's the way to cure the flare virus.
Oh.
It's like give them back the sentience, and they're like, oh, we don't want skin anymore. We're normal.
But that's also a weird, like, divergence from what the Necrons originally were. Just a tide of mindless robots, really.
It's really weird to me how in Warhammer Fantasy, the Tomb Kings, I think they were called, those didn't do well. They were removed. But the Necrons are doing good. And they're essentially the same thing.
Right. It's just one's robot skeletons and the other one's just normal skellies.
Yeah. Mummies.
Yeah. Which they're coming back in the old world. They revealed like the Tomb Kings to be like the first main race to be a part of that game whenever it comes out.
I thought it was really funny because like the Tomb King Sphinx looked amazing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But now they've got like beefy Tomb Kings and the Ossiarch Bone Reapers.
Yeah.
Which are like samurai-ish skeletons.
Yeah. I feel like the HQ or the main guy of
Katakros.
Yeah, that's what the Silent King should have looked like.
Oh, for sure. Which there's a lot of similar things when you look at both sculpts.
Yeah.
A dude on the throne, his loyal servants. Yeah, very dioramic piece.
Yep. This next question comes from The Boy Ninja. Even as a joke, stop pushing crypto scams. Jeez. And as you say that, because we were talking about Safe Moon, Safe Moon is up. So, in your face, Boy Ninja. And then he comes up from behind me and chokes me.
Oh, do me next. I want you to come from behind and choke me. But yeah, just like any investment, there's dips, there's high points, low points.
Just invest. Put all your money on just the meme tokens though. SafeMoon and Dogecoin. Don't go to like the actual things that are gonna have real world effects like Ethereum, or Uniswap or Cardano or any of those. Don't invest in those.
I thought you were about to say Kardashian.
Kardashians. We haven't even started talking about what are they called? No, never mind. I'm not gonna get into
Los Cumbia Kings.
Los Cumbia Kings.
This one is by ProMain55. Do you think that because the Emperor is being manifested in the warp and that it is known by the Imperium that this is occurring, my question is, will that cause a civil war between the Imperial factions that choose to follow the mortal Emperor and those who choose to follow the God Emperor?
I hope so.
P.S. I love these. Y'all vids. Keep it up.
Thank you. And yeah, I hope so. I think that's really interesting to have a civil war within the Imperium again.
Yeah. Right. The whole thing about the Imperium choosing sides is going to be very interesting to see where like the military falls under. Because obviously you have the Sisters of Battle, which believe and pray to the Emperor. So they'll side with the God Emperor. But it's like, what about the Imperium Guard, like the Astra Militarum?
That's where you get like the ability to just... Because like in Warhammer 40K, that's... You are participating in a civil war too. So you can get armies from whichever legion. It doesn't really matter. And you can play them either as loyalists or traitors. Because obviously there were some loyalist word bearers. There's also some loyalists, like every single one.
Right.
And I think if GW were to implement that in 40K, what I would want to see is not only the ability for Imperial Guard to like... If you're an Imperial Guard player, you just instantly have access to 2 different codex or codices or whatever, but also specific models for each group. So like make it so that if there is a Imperial Truth type of army or codex, then give us some special like science-based units. And if it's like the religious ones, then give us some super hardcore religious, like, you know, Inquisition style minis.
And then that also begs the question that like, well, shouldn't they be doing that with like the Traitor Guard? Because we all know that's a thing. Yeah. And yet there's no codex as to play the Imperial Guard as a chaos version of that.
Right. So give us that if that were to happen.
Right. Because we're missing Chaos Admech, Chaos Guard, Chaos Sisters.
That's true. I feel like it's an easy fix too, because it's like something that if you're GW, you don't like I said, you don't have to start a new line because people are already kit bashing these models anyways with your own boxes. So if you give your team a job, it would really only be to create the codex for these traitor or whatever.
And it's like, I don't know if they're already taking baby steps to it, because during this past week of like reveals and stuff for 40K, we saw that the Astra Militarum are getting more options in their boxes. Because normally you'd have to like purchase like a melt-a-gun separately or get it from the Space Marines or something like that.
Yeah.
But now you have the option to take different heavy weapons already within a box set of guardsmen.
Yeah, and that seems way cheaper than to create the entire unit. Now you could just add these little upgrade kits. And yeah, you sell more because it's like on top of the fact that you have to buy the upgrade kit, you also have to have the kit.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, maybe after the kit, you have the kit cat.
Yep. Then GW starts selling cats. This question comes from Excuse Me. What are Necron's views of the warp or warp? Are they surpass the warp? Are they surpass the warp and its powers, or does it empower them like it does other races? So the Necrons are weak towards the warp. They don't register inside the warp. And, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what the Pariah Nexus is all about.
Right. They're trying to make the warp not be able to crack into real space.
Right.
They're trying to stop it because they know all the horrors of the warp and whatnot. So yeah.
Those were the questions for today. If you guys have more questions for us, please comment down below. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
That's right. This is the Sound Alchemist.
Gersh1.
And we are out.
Always used to put my freedom first in any situation. I knew I never had that much to lose.